let's start with this.
And we will make America great again. God bless you.
So, make America great again, it's translated as アメリカを再び偉大に。再び again. 偉大 great. This is understandable, but it doesn't sound as catchy as the original phrase. It just sounds like a translation. 偉大 great isn't necessarily a difficult word, but it's not as simple and basic as great. It's something a little more specific, like something or someone who achieved a lot of things in life. For example, 偉大なアーティスト a great artist. You can also use it when you realize some everyday things or people who are around you are actually powerful and did a lot of things for you. You can say 母親は偉大 mothers are great when you realize your mom has done a lot of things in your life, like being the only woman on earth who thinks you're good looking. But the English word great has many more uses. You can say things like that sounds great or you're doing great, but we don't use 偉大 in these situations, so you can't always translate great as 偉大. 再び again is also a somewhat formal word, which we don't necessarily use very often in everyday conversation. In casual conversation, we say things like また again or もう一度 once again. So if I translate make America great again using very basic everyday vocabulary, it's gonna be something like またアメリカをすごい国に Let's make America a great country again. Well, if it's too colloquial because it's a slogan, you can say something like すごいアメリカをもう一度 Great America once again, which sounds more like a catchphrase. Or I can even use 再び and say アメリカを再びすごい国に Make America a great country again. And actually, I can probably use 偉大 and say アメリカを再び偉大な国に Make America a great country again. So here, 偉大な国A great country sounds better than 偉大に in Japanese, at least to me. And by the way, I kind of think this kind of slogan doesn't work quite well for Japan. Because if I say 日本を再び偉大な国に Make Japan a great country again, it kind of sounds wrong to me. Makes me feel like we're gonna start screaming Banzai again. So not cool. Next, Sleepy Joe.
Incompetent administration in history. The Sleepy Joe Biden administration.
And it's translated as 眠いジョー・バイデン政権 A sleepy Joe Biden administration, which is actually machine translated, and it doesn't make sense. Because if you say sleepy Joe Biden administration, the implication here is they're slow, kind of dull, and they're not doing much. But if you use the word 眠い in Japanese, it sounds more like they're physically just sleepy because they're tired and they want to go to bed. It's kind of like one of those Japanese diet sessions where politicians literally fall asleep. So 眠い isn't the right word, and we actually have the perfect word for this, which is 寝ぼけた sleepyhead. You can also use 寝ぼけた as an insult, as in 寝ぼけたこと言わないで Don't say such dumb things. So I'm going to translate this as 寝ぼけたジョー・バイデン政権 Sleepy Joe Biden administration. Next, such a nasty woman.
But what we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund.
So this one is translated as なんて嫌な女だ Such an unpleasant woman, which makes sense. Nothing wrong with it. But it's kind of sound a little milder to me. It's like, I don't like this woman. So I want to explore how we can translate nasty into different Japanese words. You can use words like 不快な unpleasant, 汚らしい dirty, 意地の悪い mean, 卑劣な despicable. Despicable sounds interesting. You can say なんて卑劣な女だ such a despicable woman. But then again, it sounds too kind of literary in a way that it's much more common in written Japanese. But 卑劣 is not really an everyday word. We don't really say it in conversation. It's the kind of word we see in a novel. So how about this? いやらしい nasty. いやらしい actually also has some sexual connotations, like something is perverted or sexual. And I think it's the perfect translation. So you can say なんていやらしい女だ such a nasty woman. And if you want to use いやらしい in a sexual way, you can use it, for example, when you see somebody watching cultured anime. You can say いやらしい such a perverted thing. You're such a pervert. Because you're definitely not going to remember the title and Google it when you get home. Next, Rocket Man.
But to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself.
Actually, they didn't really translate this. They just wrote it in Katakana, Rocketman. Because you don't have to translate everything. You only have to translate what you want to translate. But you can actually translate this as Rocket Otoko, Rocket Man. And Otoko means man. And this works perfectly fine too. Do you remember Densha Otoko, Train Man? It kind of works like that. Next, grab them by the pussy.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy.
So I saw this translation, 女性器をわしづかみにする Grab the female genitalia. 女性器 the female genitalia, is a pretty clinical term. It's kind of like Trump is giving free pelvic exams for women who he apparently respects more than anybody else. So a better translation for pussy would be manko, which Japanese news organizations probably didn't want to use because it sounds pretty vulgar. And washizukami is an interesting word. It's like opening your hand and forcefully grabbing something. It's a pretty dynamic and animated word. But joseiki o washizukami ni suru sounds more like you're simply grabbing the pussy and just the pussy instead of grabbing somebody by the pussy. Big difference. So I'd like to propose a better translation, which is manko de onna o tsukamu. Grab a woman by the pussy. Pretty crass, works well. But don't try it at home unless it's consensual. But what you can try is learning Japanese with me, because I'll help you acquire natural Japanese that real-life Japanese people today write and speak, unlike textbook versions of Japanese that can sound weird or sometimes contextually wrong. So click on the link in the description and subscribe to my email group. Next, disrespectful.
And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you.
Here, disrespectful is translated as 失礼, disrespectful or impolite, which is completely fine. But I want to explore different translations. You can also say 無礼, disrespectful, which sounds a little more intense and emotionally charged. But my favorite translation here is 礼儀知らず, doesn't know respect as in disrespectful. This sounds pretty accusatory, which works well here because the context is like, we've done so much stuff for you, why are you being like this? Very accusatory. Next, I have the best words.
I'm very highly educated. I know words, I have the best words, but there's no better word than stupid.
I saw this translation, 言葉は知っている. I know words. 言葉 means words or a language. 知っている I know. 最高の言葉を持っている. I have best words. 持っている I have. But there are a few problems here. So 言葉は知っている is pretty much a direct translation of I know the words. But I don't think it quite works here. Because if you say 言葉は知っている it kind of sounds like 言葉は知っているけど意味は知らない. I know the word but I don't know what it means. Which is not what Trump is saying here. What it means is he has a good vocabulary, in which case it's going to be something like たくさん言葉を知っている. I know a lot of words. And the next phrase, 最高の言葉を持っている, is also a direct translation of I have the best words, which again doesn't quite work in Japanese, because we don't really use the word 持っている, I have, or I'm having, for vocabulary. We would use 知っている, I know. So it's gonna be like 最高の言葉を知っている, which makes sense even though it doesn't sound natural Japanese. Having said this, the phrase I know the best words simply doesn't quite work in Japanese. So if I have to translate everything, including the part where he said there's no better word than stupid, and I don't have to translate every single word, I would say something like 私はいろんな言葉を知っていますが、バカよりふさわしい言葉はありません. I know many words, but there's no more suitable word than stupid. And I have to make this more colloquial, like something you would say in the middle of a conversation. It's gonna be something like いろんな言葉知ってますが、バカよりふさわしい言葉はないですね. I know many different words, but there's no more suitable words than stupid. For you. Next, nobody knows the system better than me.
Nobody knows the system better than me.
So this was translated as システムを私よりよく知っている者はいない. There's no one who knows the system more than I do, which is understandable, but again it sounds like a direct translation. So if I have to translate this in a more Japanese way, I would write something like 私ほど政治の仕組みを理解している人間はいません. There are no people who understand the political system more than I do. 政治 politics 仕組み the way things work 理解する to understand 人間 human beings or people. But did you notice that the both translations have a different structure from the English one? The English one is like nobody knows X, which can be translated as 誰も知らない nobody knows. So it's gonna be like 誰も私よりシステムを知りません. There are no people who understand the political system as much as I do. But this structure, nobody knows X more than I do, is not very common in Japanese. So that's why when we translate this, we use a slightly different structure. There are no people who know X more than I do. Thus, 私ほど政治の仕組みを理解している人間はいません. There are no people who understand the political system as much as I do. Or you can say 私より more than I do and say 私より政治の仕組みを理解している人間はいません. There are no other people who understand the political system more than I do. So 私ほど as much as I do or 私より more than I do. And Trump loves this structure. Nobody does X more than I do. For example, he also said nobody has more respect for women than I do.
Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody. Nobody has more respect.
Please, everybody.
This one is translated as 私ほど女性に敬意を払っている者はいない. There are no other people who pay as much respect for women as I do. 女性 women 敬意 respect 敬意を払う to pay respect. And here 物 is like people, person. But here's the thing. 敬意 respect 敬意を払う to pay respect are not really common expressions in Japanese. We don't use the word 敬意 as much as we use respect. Not because we don't respect people, but we just phrase things differently. For example, in this kind of situation, you might say something like 私ほど女性を大切にする人間はいません. And 大切にする it's something like to take good care of something or somebody, or to treat somebody or something well. So, 私ほど女性を大切にする人間はいません means there are no other people who treat women well as much as I do. And I guess that's why Trump gives women free, unsolicited pelvic exams. Next, I alone can fix it.
Which is why I alone can fix it.
Now this was translated as 私だけがこれを解決できる. I alone can fix it. だけ means alone or only. 解決できる to be able to solve. This again sounds like a mechanical translation, and this is not how we typically phrase this idea in Japanese. I'd write something like 私の他にこれを解決できる人間はいません. There are no other people except me who can solve this. It still kind of sounds translated, but it's perfectly natural and narcissistic. Next, I want to talk about this Japanese expression, トランプ節, Trumpist phrase. So this is a Japanese term for Trump's grandiose or hyperbolic phrases. Bushi is like a phrase or kind of like a melody in a song. Next, stable genius.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
This is translated as 安定した天才, a stable genius. But this needs a little bit of contextual information because if somebody just says stable genius out of context, you probably wouldn't know what they mean exactly. So the context here is Trump is tweeting how he was mentally stable and also he was very, very smart. Thus, a stable genius. So if I have to combine everything into one sentence, I would say 私はメンタルが安定している天才です. I'm a mentally stable genius. 安定 stable 天才 genius. Which kind of sounds like how a drunk person says 酔ってません. I'm not drunk. So if somebody asks you メンタル大丈夫ですか? Is your mental health okay? 頭大丈夫ですか? Is your head as in intelligence okay? You should say 私はメンタルが安定している天才です. I'm a mentally stable genius. And people will definitely believe you. Next, fake news.
Don't. You are fake news. Go ahead.
Again, we don't really translate fake news. We just say fake news. But we can also translate fake as 偽物 fake or 偽 fake as in an adjective. And you can say 偽ニュース fake news. And I find examples of people actually using 偽ニュース. But the Katakana version, fake news, is way more common, which is great news because you have one less kanji to learn. So remember, fake news is good news. But the even better news is, if you want to learn Japanese with me, I'll help you acquire natural and practical Japanese, like the kind of Japanese the real-life Japanese people actually write and speak, because Duolingo often sounds pretty weird to us. So click the link and subscribe to my email group, Japanese with Yuta.